My actors only get one take. It's a short take.
Pain is temporary, but film is forever. Violence becomes beautiful through the eyes of the director. Their pain is his art, and like a director should be, he is in total control. The third original icon that Universal has created for the event may not garner the attention and popularity that the infamous Jack the Clown did, but he may be just as important as him. Fun fact, did you know the director is the only other icon besides Jack that has been featured at the Orlando, Hollywood, and Singapore events? In each of the incarnations, there was different angles to the director, but the overall gist was the same. An Eastern European filmmaker interested in capturing the emotion of human torture and death, better known as snuff filmmaker.
Film is not just art. Film is power. Film is magic. And in the right hands, film is a weapon. Weapon. A weapon. Weapon.
It is believed the character's name is a play off director Roman Polanski, known for directing films such as Rosemary's Baby, as well as his legal troubles, who won an Oscar in 2003 around the same time as development for Horror Nights began. Since appearing in Halloween Horror Nights 13 in Universal Orlando, the director has made numerous returns, totaling 7 different appearances across the 3 destinations.
7's the key number here. Think about it.
Right.
7 11s,
yeah.
7 dwarfs. 7, man, that's the number.
Since he got us started at the Orlando event, let's take a trip back to 2003 and get to know the director a little bit better. Pavel Pranevsky was first introduced in June of 2003. Pavel was hired by Universal to make a new film during Halloween Horror Nights, which was being held at Islands of Adventure for its 2nd year in a row. Every facet of the event was all part of the director's sets and demented mind, and he was looking to continue his quest for filming raw, human emotion, which usually meant someone was going to suffer. During Halloween Horror Nights 13, the director would be featured in 2 attractions. He hosted a live show called Infestation, which featured audience participation. Guests would volunteer to audition for the director, and their heads would be placed into a giant glass box. The director would spin a wheel to decide which encounter the guests would experience, with choices including beetles, snakes, scorpions, rats, roaches, and director's choice. All Night Dine would be the director's haunted house, and was one of 6 houses in the event's lineup. Guests would enter a deserted drive-in theater that was showing iconic slasher films, and would enter the world of Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Halloween. However, the characters were being utilized under fair use, meaning they were given unofficial names. Freddy Krueger was known as Nightmare Man, for example, and Jason Voorhees was Hockey Mask Killer, and so on.
Holy crap! Looks like some sort of legally safe knockoff of an 80s horror character.
You can run, but you can't hide, bitch!
In 2004, the director was featured in the house Horror Nights Nightmares, which included all the icons of Horror Nights past. The director's portion of the maze saw guests enter a run-down movie theater, and eventually his production set, where he was tormenting victims for his feature films. The director would return as an icon in 2006, featured at both Halloween Horror Nights Orlando and Hollywood. For Orlando's 16th event, he joined Jack the Clown, Caretaker, and the Storyteller in hosting duties for Horror Nights Sweet 16, which celebrated the past 16 years of the event. The director joined the other 3 icons in the welcome show, The Arrival. In addition, each of the icons got their own house, and the director would return for All Night Dying Take 2, which would follow the same premise as the first house. The films featured for this go-around were The Ring, Hellraiser, Scream, and Silence of the Lambs. It's also where we introduced to the character the Projectionist, who was driven insane due to watching all of his snuff films.
It's all true. It's all true.
I have the proof.
I have the proof. Do you want to see something really scary?
Over in Hollywood, the director was featured as an icon for the revival of the event. In this version, the director was known as Pavel Pranevsky, who was hired by Universal to create a masterpiece horror film on the Universal backlot. Once Universal caught wind of Pavel's evil methods, they tried to arrest him, but he remained elusive. Despite the possible threat, Universal continued on with the Horror Nights event, where the director's film began production and took over the event. Guests would encounter the director on Terror Tram, the director's cut, which would be the first time the tram was used for the event since 1992. During the tour, guests would find out that the director was using them as extras for his next film, and they must survive his tests, which included chainsaw-wielding maniacs and zombies. The director wouldn't be seen again until 2010 in a secondary role, returning for Halloween Horror Nights 20, another anniversary year in Orlando. We learned that the director and the previous 4 icons were pawns to the ultimate icon, Fear. Serving as one of his 5 demons, the director would represent sacrifice, due to his willingness to create something no matter the cost. The director would be featured in the Fear Revealed Scare Zone, where a projection stage was set up for him to interact with. He would also make a brief appearance as one of the final scares in the prop warehouse of the haunted house, Horror Nights: The Hallowed Past. In 2011, the director would be used once again to kick off a marquee event, as Universal Studios Singapore began their Halloween Horror Nights and would use the director as their inaugural icon. His backstory was largely the same, but was now named Billy Skorsky and featured a different look to what has been used in the Orlando and Hollywood event. While he was their first icon, the director would not be featured in any zone or haunted house. The director's last appearance at the event was in 2015's Halloween Horror Nights 25 at Universal Orlando, once again showing up for their marquee anniversary year. He would be featured in the Scare Zone Icons, HHN, which celebrated iconic characters of the past 25 years, and would have a dedicated set where he would pose with guests and film some of his macabre actions for an occasional mini-show. While the director wasn't part of the zone, All Night Die-In would return in a Scare Zone form, featuring iconic movie monsters from the early black and white monster films to modern-day classics. It appears before its cancellation, the director was set to return for Halloween Horror Nights in 2020. With Universal Orlando still celebrating 30 years in 2021 as the event returns, we'd say it's a safe bet that we'll be seeing the director very, very soon. And that's the history of the director. Thanks for watching, and we hope you're enjoying the second Horror Nights at Home event. Which is your favorite Halloween Horror Nights icon? Make sure to comment below. And also, make sure to like, notify, and subscribe to our channel. This is Brian from Inside Universal, and I hope to see you all in the fog this Halloween season.